Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Tutor Doctor. My name is Nigel Mayne. I'm Director of the International Franchising Effort for Tutor Doctor. And it's my job over the next 28 minutes or so to share some high-level information about Tutor Doctor and the opportunity within. To start out, and people think that's a bit strange, the guy is going to start out with two apologies. Well, why not? People will ask me anyway, so I may as well get over and done with now. Your accent kind of comes in and out. What is it? And it does change. I am a Brit. I grew up in the UK, grew up in Godalming in Surrey, and left the UK almost 38 years ago. Canada is now home, and this is where I'm speaking from today. And the second apology is I might move a little quickly through these 20 or so slides because I'm trying to accomplish the feat of a 58-minute presentation in 28 minutes. So we'll see how we'll do. We'll do a time check on the end and I'll measure myself, okay? So again, thank you for having an open mind and wanting to sit through this just for a short period of time. Just to sort of, oh dear, it's not changing pages again. Small technical error. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, we can live with that. So look, just to manage expectations, just quickly run through the agenda for today. Would you do anything, you want to begin with the end in mind? What's the end game? What do you want out of it? Is it financial recompense? That's obviously important to us. Is it work-life balance? Is it moving on? It's maybe your last or your second last chapter of your life. You know, what is the exit strategy? We can certainly talk about that. We must remember at all times from this point onward, this is very much a mutual evaluation process. What that means is, while you're evaluating us, it's like a partnership. You know, we want to evaluate you as well. So we don't want to know quite a bit about you. You want to know about, we're going to be working with families and children. So we want to make sure that everybody's on the up and up and the right fit for everybody to be successful. We're going to talk about who are we, you know, why are we needed? Why is there such a demand in the marketplace for tutoring, especially in the UK? What do we do? You know, how do we do it? What makes us different? I think we all know it's critically important to have some very unique USPs. They can easily be talked about, but are they actually real? And we'll actually touch on this because that's really important, that differentiation between who we are and what else is available in the market. My favorite segment for most people, even though they might not realize it, is to understand what a typical day in the life of a fill in the blank franchisee is. Because, you know, not to pick on Costa because I love coffee, but, you know, if you're thinking about buying a Costa coffee franchise, what's your day going to be like? You might be managing the business, running it, doing all kinds of those kind of things, you know, work on the business, not in the business. But what happens on Sunday morning if your teenagers have all been out partying the night before? Who's got to go in on Sunday and play barista? You might actually love that, but you might hate that idea. So I think it's really important, no matter what franchise or business opportunity you're looking at, get a snippet of what kind of daily tasks and activities are involved, because you might just turn around and say, yeah, that's not for me. Tutor Doctor's not for me. And that's fine. We find that out at a very early stage. We're going to finish up the conversation with some key updates, things that are happening in the Tutor Doctor world globally, and finally some next steps. And if we make it to the end together, we can talk about how we can get you a big fat franchise information pack, first class mail. We can talk about how we can get some information about you and how we can set up a time to get some of your, I know they're there and they will be there if they're not now, some questions that you will have about what we do and how we do it. And I'm having trouble moving on to my next slide again. There we go. Okay. Begin with the end in mind. You know, we can talk about that in many different ways. You know, obviously results count for everything. And, you know, any franchisor and their brother will tell you about their most successful franchisee or franchisees. It depends what you want out of it. You know, people come to us from various walks of life. I have a gentleman I'm speaking with right now, and he works for a government agency, and he doesn't have a particularly large salary to replace. So his wants and needs, yes, he wants to make more than what he was. Whereas, you know, we've got franchisees that had Forex for banks and made multiple six figures, former vice president of marketing for Microsoft, the former gentleman in charge of 500 Morrison stores, the director of McDonald's franchising UK of 28 years has just bought a franchise. So they all have, everybody has a different requirement and have different goals to what they need to make in the interim and what they like to make longer term. So, I always start off with, our very first franchisee, her name was Alex Kochbrook. She coincidentally came from Farnham, Surrey, about, 10 miles from where I grew up. Was a franchisee for some 11 years. Worked at IBM, and she recently sold her business after all that time. But she was getting up into the between £700,000 and £800,000 a year. Again, she was the number one franchisee at the time. Now we've got our first £1 million a year franchise. So when people say to franchisees, so when people say to me, "What's the difference?" The first thing I say is earnings opportunity. It doesn't come without a lot of hard work. It doesn't come on a silver platter. We have franchisees making 20, 30, 50. We've had a first franchisee had £100,000 in 1 month after 6 years in operation. So it depends what you want about. We have to talk about what your goals are. They won't be the same as anybody else. First, UK franchise I talked about. Annual turnover we touched on. Profitability, I talk about two different ranges because your pre-VAT EBITDA, your pre-VAT net profit should be, as long as you're following the system, doing what's supposed to be doing, we typically will see 28 to 30%. Your post-VAT EBITDA should be running after that about 24, 25%. There are a few variables in that, and we'll have a numbers conversation and go through P&Ls and at the appropriate time. That's normally our third conversation. Make sure you're fully aware of all the numbers. Just last week, we've been in some challenging times. The whole world's been and still is in some challenging times. And luckily in the UK, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. And last month alone, we saw the demand for number of book consultations. This is where franchisee or their designate as a certified education consultant meets with mums and dads and their child together in a consultation. It's no charge, there's no obligation to it, and will offer solutions after assessing that child. We've been doing that virtually a lot. Obviously, as normal, we start to normalize life a bit more, which is wonderful. We'll go back to doing it in person or give people the option. But we took March of last year was pre-lockdown. I'm in the UK at least 6 times a year. I was there for a franchising event. That was pre-lockdown. That was the month before lockdown. And this March's sales were up 51%, and our consultations were up. 71%. The consultations were up, and business was up 59% in sales. And then this last month is up 76%, and it keeps on going because there's a pent-up demand for what we're doing and things that have been happening in the marketplace, which I'll be touching on a little bit about. So it can't just be about the money. If you're doing something about the money, we're all trading time for money. I'm going to suggest it needs to be more than that. Just an idea. I've told my 4 adult daughters that, in life, do something that you love to do, not something you have to do. You've got to enjoy leaping out of bed and looking forward to your day at whatever you're doing. Who are we, and why are we needed? Tutor Doctor is now by far the world's largest private one-to-one tutoring company. The company was formed in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Why are we needed? Without dwelling too much on this, but for our young people, the world's a very different place to when we perhaps grew up. And I need to cite myself. I don't mind picking on me, but I went to, just to date myself, I went to secondary school in the UK in the early to mid 70s. And, I wanted to be a pilot, couldn't be one of those. So I decided I was going to be an air traffic controller. And to be an air traffic controller, you could start at 16 with 5.0 levels, and you could get into air traffic control school as an officer assistant. Now you better have a couple of degrees, and if you speak a foreign language, even though English is you'll need. So look, there are a couple of mainstream high street banks. It says on the application form, because everybody has all their job postings online these days, it actually says that in the small print, even for the highest volume applied for position in a bank, which is that of teller. It says in the bottom of the small print that preference will be given to applicants with a university education. With all due respect to tellers, you don't need a degree to be a teller. Sorry, you just don't. So we now are in a world where the corporate world can make much higher demands of educational standards met by their newer employees. So what's that ended up with? More pressure on students to do better through their schooling. And that translates into more pressure on parents because we all want to do the best we can for our children. Just to touch on Tutor Doctor's reach, we are currently in 17 countries. We have 720 operational franchise territories. And by the way, in the UK, we have 172 franchise territories. We're in our 12th year, 13th year, I think, just this month, 13th year in the UK. And we delivered, as McDonald's says, millions and millions or billions. We haven't done the billions yet, but that's a lot of tutoring hours with almost 40,000 tutors working for the organization. You know, what do we do? Everything that we do is founded on our 5 core values. Now, I'm afraid I don't have time to go into these right at the moment. They are an important read because when you get in the printed material from us, when you read these, you'll have to sort of be nodding as you go through that they align with you, because if they don't, the likelihood this might not be for you. But our core belief is that everybody can learn. The problem is with the current systems, it's one size fits all. There's a class of 30, and we know that every one of those students is individual, has individual needs and circumstances. So we tailor that to the individual student and change the trajectory of that student's life. Our 4-step process is we have an assessment that's part of the initial consultation where we go, which is free of charge, where we sit down, assess using some intellectual property. Then it's very important that we match them with the right tutor. Now, it's not just because the student needs help with pre-GCSE exam, algorithm, whatever the subset of maths is. You know, it's got to be the right personality. Now, if you had somebody, you had a quiet 8-year-old boy, and I had a very qualified 2 decades of experience math teacher that he needed help, I'm quite a loud, obnoxious type A kind of person. We know you need to put a quiet child, normally with a quietly spoken female. So there are other things that you need to think about when you're matching. Ongoing tutoring and accountability. There are session reports. There's full interaction between us and parents on an ongoing basis. We check that in and have an ongoing communication with parents and child. You know, what makes us different? This is where the rubber really hits the road. Like I mentioned, we start out with a free in-home consultation. We'll talk about how we market this in a minute, but that's really important. No charge, no obligation in-home consultation. They're about an hour. Normally, our franchisees do it. It's all part of the 2.5 months of training programs. A lot of training here, probably more than anybody else in the industry, so that you become confident and can do the job well. Where we assess the child. We're the only company I'm aware of that has a foundational program on every hour of tutoring on a foundational program called X Skills. X Skills it embeds, if you like, it's not the content, the subject matter content, it's the foundation on which we can build that. In other words, it's 6 core competencies that help every child become a better learner. We do a lot of special needs tutoring. A lot of people think tutoring companies are there for that rush for pre-exam prep, GCSEs, A levels, 11 plus. My goodness, now since I did my 11 plus, there's now 8 pluses and 13 pluses and all sorts. So there are more opportunities out there, perhaps. When in fact it's less than 50% of our business. A lot of our business is just helping students that are struggling with their current school curriculum. And we as parents have become a little bit tired. Maybe we've done some homeschooling during the pandemic and we're just burnt out ourselves. Okay. And I can remember when my girls were, Dad looking over their shoulder, can you help me with my history homework? And first of all, I didn't want to admit it, but I'd forgotten most of it or didn't know how to do it. So as parents, we always want to do the best for our children. We get somebody else in that can do it. But you ask any company out there if they're so confident about their product offering, they actually will offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. We now offer online. Now, understand that what got us to where we are as the biggest in the world was based on one-to-one in-home tutoring. We had to adapt very quickly. Fortunately, we already had an online platform. We already had a contingency. It wasn't used very much, maybe only a small percentage of our business. All of a sudden, overnight, we had to do 100% of our business online. And so we have that platform. It's been implemented 3 or 4 years ago. Now we can give parents the option of whether they like online. We know that there's all kinds of white papers and reports that students get a lot more out of one-to-one in-person tutoring. Now, student enrollment. As a Tutor Doctor franchisee, almost every activity you're involved with is to do with, on a daily basis, you'll be involved with activities that are to do with enrolling students. That's where the rubber hits the road, all right? That's where the money end of the stick, the pointy end. And then the other part is tutor recruitment. So how do we go about that? Again, we've been in changing times. We had for many, many years, for the vast majority of Tutor Doctor's existence, depended on online marketing. We have an internal marketing department. Even here in Canada, the person that heads up the content is from Lincolnshire, so it's got lots of Britishness to it. We create those campaigns for you to post, whether it's on social media, it's just cut and paste the links and the videos we produce every month on all sorts. It's the PPC, it's all turnkey. All this is done for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Social media content is provided to you. There are seasonal campaigns like back to school, summer camps. We're using coding summer camps for people that want to do, kids that might get interested in robotics or gaming. We've got some summer camps going on this year. And when you meet with the parents and you sit down with them for that hour, you're assessing the child, you're putting together a customized, written academic game plan, custom to that child, and giving it to the parents. When they see that, and then we've measured where they are, we can now plan the journey to where they need to be. Now, you and I know that a lot of what we do is parental management of expectations. No, Mrs. Smith, Johnny is not going to be Einstein in 90 days. But what I can tell you, and this is audited, just over 70% of all of our consultations that we do in the UK result in a simple one-page contract being signed, wait for it, for an average value, audited by NatWest, £1,666. The initial spend, not the re-enrollments, not the referrals, not contracts for school. We're just talking about people that come to us through our in-community marketing and our online marketing. Those are important and impressive numbers. Community marketing, and again, if you can imagine my hands here, assuming you can see me in the box here, if we had like a fuel gauge, we were so dependent on online marketing. Then we said, look, community marketing, we're a community-centric business. We get out there, we do county shows. We've got a contract now with Tesco's that we can get business from our local Tesco's. We've got library talks that we put on, all kinds of in-community, really get you involved with the community and through the schools and the education system. And so what happened pre-COVID, we were moving that needle to almost halfway, where about half our business came from online, half our business came from community marketing. And then COVID hit, bang, we became back to be dependent on online marketing. As we come out, we're going to see that needle go back. And the other reason is the cost of a new customer acquired through community marketing is a saving about 70% on our marketing costs and really getting a presence in the community. Tutor recruitment, who are our tutors? I always suggest that the analogy is like going fishing. And, there are 3 ponds. There's the biggest pond, which is the existing teachers and tutors pond. The nice thing about this pond is that once you've got one, every educator out there knows, if you believe Reader's Digest, that they know at least 100 other tutors, their colleagues at their current school, the schools they've worked at previously, colleagues, people, friends they made at teacher training college or uni or whatever. So We have methods and material and IP to help us do that. You are spoon-fed this content and these material and tools. Retired educators, retirees. Actually, some of the franchises have told me they don't even know if they care about the money. It's just because they miss working with young people. I'm sure some people that are retired educators never want to see a child the rest of their life, but there are plenty out there for us that actually still miss it. University students, in areas where there are university students, we've done two, actually, Reading franchisee, who also owns Alton-on-Thames Richmond, they did two recent career fairs on the same day, had 150 plus applicants. Four of those applicants weren't from students, they were from faculty members, and they're often worth their weight in gold. And the cost of acquisition is the least expensive method of acquiring tutors. Again, there's all kinds of material. There's posters, there's online campaigns that can be posters, there's events. You just want to get out there to those kind of things that are in your community. They're not difficult to find. You know, just some key updates. You know, I mentioned online tutoring, and has become the go-to method. In my view, and it's only a view, I don't think anything can replace one-to-one. If a child is on a screen and you're saying, "Do you get that, Johnny? Are you sure you get that?" And yeah, I do, miss. You can't see their body language and their legs squirming under the table. So I think it's a matter of choice. We're going to give customers the opportunity to do this. It also allows us to give distance tutoring. It allows us to give tutoring opportunities for those that may have some disability. They can't travel, they've got a wheelchair. It opens up some earnings opportunities for those kind of people. And for, when you come to the point where I'm fresh out of marine biologist, look, no subject, we taught over 120 subjects last year. And you get the odd one, and you have to go, oh my goodness, I'm fresh out of marine biologist today. We have a tutor share program amongst all our franchisees. The franchisees have the option to opt in and share their tutors. You can tutor into far off places. You might have family in Scotland, you might have family in Plymouth. It doesn't matter. If we don't have a franchisee there, and depending on what kind of license you have with us, there's an opportunity to provide online tutoring and expand your business beyond your territorial boundaries. We are not all work and no play. This is an organization that is, it's a fun place with fun people to hang around. We have, every year, we have something called President's Circle, top 10% performing franchisees. It's normally a high-end cruise in the Mediterranean. It's a 5-star resort in Barbados. It can be anywhere. And we've been doing this for a dozen or more years. Those franchisees come from all over the world. I think actually the top 10 performing franchisees, not 10%, sorry. Last year, to give you an idea, given how big we are in the US and Canada and many other markets, 5 out of the 10 came from the UK. In fact, some of their pictures are on here, not having any fun whatsoever. The UK franchises are quite sociable. I know that's been restrained lately, but they'll occasionally have a Christmas party, and 30% of our franchisees don't even celebrate Christmas, but they still joined in and had a good time. And I know they're planning some events as things normalize. So yeah, having fun is definitely a motto. We also like to give back in the community. And actually, I mentioned the lady from Lincolnshire Marketing, that is Michelle Morris on the right, building a school in Kenya. So we contributed to the building of school in Kenya. We're part of MakeChildPovertyHistory.org. We actually help kids in Peru whose school was basically obliterated with loss of life because somebody thought it was a great idea to put a fireworks factory next to a school, but we got them internet, we got them computers, so if you want to get involved, you can very much volunteer to participate. At the end of the day, we change lives. That's our overall goal, to change the trajectory of students' lives. Our tutors We are all about our tutors. And the value add is not the USPs that we offer to parents for their children. It's also the USPs for tutors. Could they make an extra pound or two or whatever going somewhere else? It's the complete value add is what they buy. We don't compete. We're in the market. We're a premium. We make no bones about who or what we are. We're a premium product and we're premium priced. As soon as you start competing on price point, that is a downhill, very slippery slope. We differentiate ourselves. It's a high value proposition. And that's why we have over 70% uptake from everybody that we speak to. We have recognition of our tutors. We have Tutor of the Year awards. There are online communities. They have a challenge with a particular student. They can post it. They don't care if the best solution came from a tutor doctor tutor in Sydney or San Francisco or Solihull. It's something there for them. We actually help tutors polish up on their skill sets. So not only does that help us, but it helps them in their day job too. So we have modules. I mean, there's about 100 out there, but it could be how to work with dyslexic children, how to work with a bullied child, how to, whatever, and how to communicate. So we give extra value to our tutors. You can listen to this warped, displaced Englishman rattle on for a bit. But you know what? Don't believe a word I say. Find out what the world is saying about us. Elite Franchise Magazine in the UK, very highly reputed publication. We've been the #1 education franchise by far, every year for the last 6 or 7 years. NatWest, Mark Scott was my friend. He just retired last month, after a long time in the bank. And he said, they do a risk assessment of all the brands. There are over 1,000 franchise options in the UK. And he said, that's an internal, I shouldn't probably be telling people, but you know what I'm like. He said, there's a rating of 1 to 10 of franchise companies. If you're a 6 or above, they won't fund. It's too risky. A 1 is the perfect franchise. There is no such thing. It's like a diamond. A perfect diamond doesn't exist. We are a 2. And there are only 2 other brands in the entire United Kingdom. There are a risk factor of just 2. And yes, before you ask, I do not know who they are. He wouldn't tell me. So we've been members of the BFA, supporting franchising since 2011. We're founding members of the Tutors Association. We're the winners of all kinds of awards. We have a PR company in the UK that never fails to get more than 100 articles published, from local community newspapers to the Times supplement. So all that's done for you. You've got departments for marketing and lead generation and material preparation and PR. This is all there. They're all the departments that work for you as your franchise. Last slide, just to sort of wrap up here. What I suggest to people, it's just been touching the surface, is, been very little bit of information. The devil's in the detail. You can probably assess yourself on a level of 1 to 10 of where your interest level is right now. So come up with your number. If you're sort of a 7 or above, there's probably something worth talking about. If I've got your, whet your appetite a little bit. If you're at a virtual franchise show watching this right now, you can speak to Steph on our stand, and she can point you to other material. You can fill out a quick confidential questionnaire, and we will send you first class made. And it's bigger than your mailbox, so I hope you're home. Big fat franchise information pack, and then she will book a time with myself or my colleague Umit for us to get your questions answered, because I know you have them. Thank you for listening. We were 29 minutes and 2 seconds. Appreciate you joining us and keeping an open mind. Have a wonderful day.